Hi guys, what's up? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction. We're here for UFC Vegas 54. Jan Blachowicz against Aleksander Rakic is our main event of the night in the UFC Light Heavyweight division. As Jan looks to get back on a win streak after losing his belt to Glover Teixeira late last year, and Rakic looking to extend his winning streak in the UFC and further put himself into further title contention going forward. Some good fights. There's only 11 fights in this card. I've kind of been watching fights throughout the week. I got through everything for UFC 274 pretty quick. Kind of a little bit gutted that I kind of started to change my tune on the co-main event, even though that it was possibly the worst fight I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, UFC 274, some big moments there. Charles Oliveira is just an absolute G. What a fighter that guy is. I'm really looking forward to seeing if they make him versus Islam, or they make Islam against Beneil, or whoever he gets. But whoever's going to beat Charles Oliveira has to do something really, really special, because he is just a fighter on fire within the last couple of years, and he looks like one of the best guys in the sport. Coming off another profitable night for me bet wise, I lost a couple of bets. I had a parlay with Fiallo and Lozon Cerrone doesn't go the distance, so that was just a straight bet on Fiallo, which came through pretty easily. I took a shot on Carnelossi, lost that one. Won my Randy Brown bet. Another one was Charles Oliveira inside the distance, was plus 115. I was all over that. So yeah, there was a couple of the spots. There was Bellator card beforehand, the night before, which had 3 underdogs, which I really liked. I never bet any of them, and they all won. Of course I did. So that's stung a little bit. But overall for the year, I'm up 36.3 units. And considering we've just went into May, I think that's a pretty good start. I'm really, really happy with what I've been doing there. So I think it's just over £4,000 I'm up for the year. So decent. I'm doing really well. I'm hoping to kind of keep going with that. So guys, if you're new to the channel, please throw a like in the video. And let's get into these fights here. And we're starting off middleweight division. We've got Nick Maximov against Andrei Petrovsky. Interesting fight. You've got a guy in Maximov who I think is going to be a really good fighter once he kind of gets past the green stages of his kind of early UFC career. I think he's got a game that can win him many fights in the UFC. You've seen that with what he's done in the UFC, with multiple takedowns, multiple control, multiple amounts of time of control. And you've seen his last fight, he was just relentless with it. And I've made these comments before, and there's some other people out there that I respect that have noticed this as well. These new guys that can get multiple takedowns and long periods of control are just going to be hellacious matchups for a lot of guys. We've seen him way back in the Dana White Contender Series when I think he went up to heavyweight, beat a big guy there, got takedowns, controlled him there. Cody Brundage got multiple takedowns. His striking is something that obviously needs to really come to the fore a little bit, and that will come in time. But when you've got such a dominant ground game, why not use it? Yeah, and he showed that against Puna Soriano. Took away any of the danger that Soriano had with the big power in his hands. Got multiple takedowns and just landed immense amounts of control time there. Split decision. I wasn't too kind of fond of that. Andrei Petrovsky, he's 2-0 in the UFC. Wasn't overly impressed when I kind of even watched the UFC contender, the Tough Series, sorry. Comes from that great camp out there in Philadelphia, Hensel Gracie. I think it's Daniel Gracie. Daniel Gracie, I think it is. Really a lot of good group of guys coming out there in Philadelphia with Sean Brady's and your Pat Sabatinis and so on. I mean, he's did what he's had to do. He's fought 2 very low caliber kind of guys in the UFC, New Haozong and Michael Gilmore. I don't even think those guys are in the UFC anymore. But what he's shown in those fights, especially the last fight, that he can wrestle too. I think he was a D2 All-American wrestler, or D2 division wrestler, I should say. And he's got a ground game. You've seen that he kind of goes late, and he's had 2 third round finishes in his last couple of fights. For me, I think both guys are obviously grapplers. I think Maximov's is just more settled towards MMA. And for me, I just think he's going to get multiple takedowns. I think he could probably show off some of his striking here, because I think that Petrovsky will kind of fade a little bit. He has shown that in some instances in the past, but Maximov is still a little bit green for me. but I like his overall game coming through, especially his grappling. I think he wins this one here. He's like a minus 400 favourite, so he's got a massive price tag against his name, which is a little bit scary. I was last week before that. I think that I don't think the odds were out yet. I thought that's a parlay piece. It's just too high for me, so I'm going to be staying away. I think he wins the fight. I think he could get a late stoppage as well, so maybe a third round sprinkle on Maximov there. Tatsuro Taira against Carlos Candelario. This was a fight, obviously, I think some 2 weeks back. They all weighed in. Candelario got ill. They moved it back a couple of weeks. I picked Tatsuro Taira there, but I did kind of say that I was wanting to see a little bit more against an okay guy. I think Candelario was like plus 200. I don't think he's the worst dog spot in the world. Taira's very limited on the feet. Really good ground game. Takes the back really well. And that's what I think he needs to do here. But I kind of feel that he will do that in this spot. Candelario's probably overall the better kind of fighter, but I think that one aspect of the game from the Tatsura will kind of win him the fight and probably get him a stoppage. So I think I picked him by decision last time. I'm actually going to pick him. I'm going to change it up just a little bit, and it really shouldn't because the matchup's still the same. But I'm going to take Taira via submission in the first. I'm going to just go out on a limb, a little bit of a flyer there, and think Taira gets an early stoppage in that one there. But I think I can see a lot of people being on the Taira side, taking a shot there because the odds are quite big, and Taira hasn't faced the greatest opposition out there in Japan. But for me, I think that I have to stick with the pick of Taira, and I think he gets it done early in this one there. Virna Jandiroba against Angela Hill is up next. Now, I'm going to side with Virna here, but I think Angela Hill, like she has been in many spots before, can be very, very live in this spot because, she takes girls into kind of deep waters, can have really high, heavy output and make rounds really, really close if she can keep this on the feet. And her takedown defense is something that she has improved with over the years, but she's still a woman that's like nearly a 500 fighter across her career. So that has to be kind of taken into account a little bit. Jandiroba, I think, is if she gets us to the ground, she can have long spots where she can win the fights through that. But she's lost since she's come into the UFC. She's lost 3 fights, or only 3 losses in her career, with her wins over Mallory Martin, Felice Herrig, and Kanako Murata. Not great wins, but there is stoppages in those wins there. She's always liable to get a stoppage down the ground if she can get it down there. And she's did that for the most part. She did it against Esparza, and Esparza's the champion in the division. She did it against Mallory Martin. She did it against Herrig. She did it against Mackenzie Dern as well. So she gets people to the ground most often than not. So what Angela Hill has to do here is initially stop the takedowns. And if she can keep it standing there, she has got far more output. She is the far more dangerous, more decorated striker. And like I say, she's lost close fights before to Gadelia, to Watterson, to is it Limo? So that was the last one out there. So she fights very close. This could be another one here if she stops takedowns, and Jandiroba hasn't got like control time or good submission attempts there. I think that this could be another close fight. So I am leaning on the Jandiroba side, but I actually think that Angela Hill could make this another one of these close run fights where she could potentially get the win. But I just rather go on the safer side. I think right now on the Jandiroba side, I sit back and watch this one and see if Virna can extend our win streak, get back on. Sorry, a win streak is what I'm trying to say. Oh, this is a greasy fight. Michael Johnson against Alan Patrick. 2 guys. Alan Patrick is on my not very friendly list. I'm not a big fan of this guy with the whole Mason Jones situation. Pulled that stunt in that fight. Really wanted to find a way out, really. He was getting his ass beat. They tried to make the fight again. He pulled out. We've not seen him since. So, like I say, this is a big fight for him considering he's come off 3 losses. I'm counting that as a loss against Mason Jones, where he got knocked out by Scott Holtzman and Bobby Green. So he's kind of been found out a little bit because he was a guy that was very hard to kind of face. He kind of blankets you with his takedowns. He's did that over Stevie Ray, Demir Hadzovic, but he's not won a fight in over 4 years. So He really needs this win here. And he's against the guy in Michael Johnson who he looks amazing until he doesn't. He could be winning fights very, very clearly, like the Tago Moises fight, and then all of a sudden, 30 seconds into the second round, he's getting subbed via a heel hook. And like I say, he's lost 4 in a row where he's getting beat by Clay Guida, Moises, Stevie Ray, Josh Emmett. No harm in that. He was winning that fight against Josh Emmett as well. So, but he's not. When was the last time he won a fight? So he's coming on 4 years as well since he's won a fight. Big fight for both guys. Cannot trust either one of them. I'm actually going to lean on the Alan Patrick side because I think that he can probably get takedowns. I think he will get let up in the feet, but I think he's just going to. I've got a feeling this is going to be a horrible fight where he clinches him up against the cage, gets some takedowns, but in the open space, I think that he could get bombed on by shots from Michael Johnson. It's just one of those fights you can't trust either guy. For me, I can't. So in this one, I'm literally just going to take the dog. I'm going to take Alan Patrick. I'm going to take him via a very kind of smelly decision there, but something I want no part in. I don't want my money anywhere near that fight. Viviani Arugio against Andrea Lee. I'm going to go with Andrea Lee here. I really liked what I've seen and the progression that I've seen in our game recently. I think she's always been one of those fighters I actually really admire quite a bit. I think her overall game is pretty decent. She's got some wrestling in there. She's got jiu-jitsu skills. And she's just someone that I've really liked since she's come into the UFC. And she's lost a couple of fights in there. She had like a 3-fight stint there where she lost to some decent girls. Girls that she could have won. I mean, she had a couple of close splits in there. I was on the Jojo Calderwood side there, so I think it was plus 200 I got her in that fight. But then she came through like 2 big wins. Antonina Shevchenko stoppage there in the second, knocking out Cynthia Calvillo there in the second as well, where she was lighting her up with some strikes. Really couldn't miss through that entire fight. And like I say, she can get takedowns as well. You've seen that in the Antonina fight. You've seen that in the Roxanne Modafferi fight. She has gotten takedowns in multiple fights in the UFC, and I think it's very, very good down there. Araujo is one of these fighters who I think she's starting to get found out a little bit, where she can get outstruck. She fades off a little bit as the fight goes on, where Andrea Lee keeps a steady pace throughout the fight. I just think she's overall the better fighter. This could be another one of these fights that is very close. I think that Lee can mix it up a little bit more. Now, in saying that, Araujo has it in their UFC fights. If you go back and watch a couple, she has got multiple takedowns through 3 or 4 of her fights in the UFC, and she's only had 6 or 7 fights. So she can get takedowns, but she can also be up at distance a little bit. You've seen that in her last loss against Chookagian. I think Andrea Lee is going to come in here and throw more output. Maybe mix it up a little bit. If she does that, I think she wins this pretty convincingly. Women's fight will be close. The rounds could play out close. I'm going to lean with Andrea Lee. I think that I like what I've seen from her, especially in her last fight there. So I'm going to take Andrea Lee to win that one there. Moving on to the main card. This is one I was looking at a lot today. Jake Hadley against Ala Nacimento. I'm very, very familiar with Jake Hadley. I'm a very big fan of him. I think he's got a lot of talent. Still very early on in his career. He's been around a little bit. He's won the Cage Warriors flyweight title. He won the EFC title, I think, in his 4th pro fight, going over to South Africa and beating the Kazimulu Zulu, a guy that you maybe seen that he tried to fight to get into the UFC and the Ultimate Fighter. Lost that fight. I can't remember who he lost to, but he was like kind of the top guy in South Africa. I went over there, won a 25-minute fight against him there in his like 4th pro fight. So that was a good one to have in his record. And then, like I say, he's beaten decent guy. Shaj Haq is a guy that I know very well. The European circuit over here. He's an awkward guy to fight. Beat Luke Shanks, blanketed him for majority of that fight with his dominant ground game there, and then went over and fought Mitch Raposo in the Contender Series, who's a guy that you might know a little bit. I actually think he'll turn out to be a good fighter. was on the Ultimate Fighter, lost in the first round, and came out. Raposo came out great in that first round, got some takedowns, was kind of avoiding the heavy shots that Hadley can bring. But then you've seen, I don't want to say faded off. Hadley got his game going, and once he got the takedown, it was kind of done for there. Got a horrible neck crank. So, but with Jake Hadley, what I like, I think he's overall a pretty solid, sound fighter. Good striking. He's very aggressive. He's a little bit of a bully. You'll hear numerous commentators say that if you watch the fights there. Got decent low kicks, kind of tap the body with body kicks, and has got some decent power, like you've seen in the Hack fight there, where if he lands the right shots, he can put you out. What I like about him, I think his ground game is very good. He's very, very good, very top heavy, moves to the back very well, can like put the body triangle on for a lot of time in rounds and win rounds through that. And you can see that he can get submissions as well. He nearly got Luke Shanks out in that first round. There was an extra 10 seconds, I think he would have. And he's been the 25-minute distance a couple of times. I love that. There was the whole thing with why Dana, there was a lot of stuff saying that the staff behind the scenes weren't big fans on. The matchmakers did not want to sign this kid. So I thought he was going to be thrown to the wolves pretty quick. And they tried to match him up with a couple of guys. Figueiredo was one of them. But he's against Nascimento who's in his two biggest fights his career, the Paiva fight and the Ulanbekov fight. Lost split decisions in both. He's a very game fighter, very aggressive, but very liable to be taken down. I went back and watched the fight from 2013 against Will Campuzano, where he got taken down numerous times. I've seen this guy taken down over 10 to 15 times in the fights that I've watched of him. There's a clear path to me for Jake Hadley to win the fight through that. But what I will say for Nascimento is he's very active off his back. He's always looking for submissions. He's very quick to latch on to stuff. So you have to be super, super careful. Hadley, if he does take him down, don't leave anything in there hanging out with that he can get a hold of, because you see in the Ulanbekov fight that there was a couple of positions there where he nearly found an armbar. Just very active. But what I didn't like was the fact that he kind of stayed too long on his back, and the fight just kind of left him for that, and it went to a split with that, which I don't really think it should have been. I'm on Jake Hadley here. I think it's a really good spot for him to use his grappling, be dominant there, potentially get a finish. I think a decision is more likely play. I've parlayed him up with a guy further on the card. He is my only bet on the card so far. I made that very early this morning after I caught with UFC 274. But I'm going to take Jake Hadley via decision. Frank Camacho makes the trek back down to lightweight against Manuel Torres. This is one I've not looked into all that much. I looked into Torres a little bit, I want to say back on Thursday, fighting out of Mexico, coming off the Dana White Contender Series where he fought Colt in England and got a very early finish in that first round there. A lot of strikes, big knockdown, and got the finish there. But I watched some of his fights where he was, I mean, he's not fighting the greatest caliber opposition coming out of Mexico, and you get that a lot of times. But he's did what he had to do. I've watched his fights with the Canada, I think his name was. There was the Kambachi one that I watched. 2 quick finishes in the first round against guys with 12-2 and 10-11 records at that time. So I think he's quite big for the division. Let me just bring up the stats here on this one. Like I say, match preview, I'm just looking at that here. So they're both 5'10", with both a 73-inch reach. So, but the thing what I'm kind of looking at here is Camacho. He is making that run down to 155 again, and that's not really played out for him. And he is coming off a big loss. I think it was a 170 against Justin James, which really, that's not the greatest look in the world either. So, with his only 2 wins in the UFC being over Nick Hine, Damian Brown, and like I say, he has been stopped in pretty much all of his losses in the UFC, apart from his one with Li Jingliang. So, but he has faced high caliber opposition. I mean, Beneil Dariush, Jeff Neal are ranked fighters in their division, but that look, that loss against Justin James is not a good one. So, like I said, I'm going to look into this a little bit more, but I am going to go. Like I say, Torres to me looks like he's got the power that could potentially hurt Frank Camacho, but I've not looked into this fight too much. My initial lean is on the Camacho side. Far more experience. The guy's been a pro for like 16 years, so he's fought over a lot of different places. This is a kind of do or die fight. He loses this one, but he's lost 5 of his last 6. You don't think the UFC keep him around. Initially, I'm going to take him here, but like I say, I've not watched much, and I am going to go and watch more of these guys once I get the opportunity through the week here. So Frank Camacho is going to be my early lean in that one there. Katlyn Chookagian against Amanda Ribas. I really want to pick Amanda Ribas here, and it's really just because I'm not a big fan of Katlyn Chookagian. But when you look at the matchup, I actually think that this is a really winnable fight for Katlyn Chookagian, and that's where I'm going to lean on this side here. This is a fight that is up at flyweight. I believe that Ribas is moving up from 115, which I'm a little bit intrigued about. We all know what Chookagian kind of brings to the table. She's not one of these fighters that's going to come out there, kind of push the pace, but she can be on her bike. She can be landing strikes. She can be looking more busier in the eyes of the judges. And she just kind of seems to win a lot of fights with her kind of style, her tennis grunts, and she's coming off 3 wins after getting stopped by Jessica Andrade, and there's no harm in that because Andrade is the former champion. I think she probably ends up fighting for the belt again against Esparza, while Weili Zhang and Joanna fight, and then we find out who faces them from there. She's coming off 3 wins, 3 decision wins over Calvillo, Viviani Arugio, and Jennifer Maia, where a striking really won on the fight. You've seen in the Shevchenko fight that she can use a ground game if needs be. I don't think she really wants to do that with someone like Amanda Ribas, who I think is very dangerous on the ground. But when I just look at this one here, I'm like, right, where does she win this fight? I thought her striking did look a hell of a lot better against Jandiroba. I think she mixed it up a little bit. She used some low kicks. Her striking looked as good as I think it ever has. And she's very dangerous if she gets to the ground. I just don't think she's got that style where she's going to hold on to Chookagian, and Chookagian's going to be fighting at distance, winning close rounds where there's probably the similar amount of strikes between the two of them. Like I said, I really wanted to go in the Ribas side, but Chookagian has to be the pick for me here, and I've got a via decision in that one there. Dangerous Davy Grant against Louis Smolka is up next. Very winnable fight for Davy Grant, in my opinion. He gave Chito Vera a very, very, I thought, a tough fight, even though he definitely lost. The Yanez fight, I thought he was in with a shout with winning that one. I edged it for Yanez, but if it went to Davy Grant, I couldn't have really grumbled too much. This guy's a really, I think now he's in the best spot of his career. He's healthy. He's having fights frequently, and he's looked good. I think he's looked good the last couple of years. The Martin Day win, the Jonathan Martinez win. He's just looked really good since the 2020, really. I know he's only went 2-2 then, but he's lost to 2 good fighters the last time out, and he's gave a great account of himself in both fights as well. This, to me, Smolka, I mean, he's so hot and cold. He's kind of win one, lose one. He's on that streak. He has been for like 4 years in the UFC. He's coming off that loss to Vince Morales where he got knocked out. And the one thing you can say with Davy Grant is the guy's got some vicious power, and that kind of maintains throughout the fight as well. Grant, I think, is really good on the ground as well. So I think that he could counteract that style if Smolka wants to take him down there. And Smolka's just so hit and miss for me that you'll see him knock out a guy, or like Sumadarji get a beautiful submission, or Quinones get a submission there, but then he's getting subbed by Casey Kennedy. He's getting knocked out. For me, Davy Grant has to be the play here. I've parlayed him up with Jake Hadley. I got minus 225. I got in this morning before the lines have changed. It's like minus 275 and minus 300 in some spots. So it's an English parlay I've got there with Hadley and Davy Grant. Plus 116 was the odds I got in those two guys there. I think Davy's just going to really put some power shots on Smolka and stop Smolka in the middle to late part of this fight. So dangerous Davy Grant is going to be my pick there. Co-main event, Ryan Spann against Ian Kutila. I really liked what I've seen from Cutelaba last time out, a more measured approach, just worked his wrestling. He has got that in his back pocket. It's something that he can use. And if he can maintain that gas tank, then he's going to be a dangerous fighter, because we know he's a bit of a berserker. He is crazy. He will come forward. He will exchange shots. But I like the fact that we've seen a different game from him with his takedowns. And we've seen that in the fight before against Dustin Jacoby, before him gassing. Numerous takedowns. Doesn't really hold the guy there for long spots of the fight initially, but something I think he could do, especially against Ryan Spann, who I don't think is great. Spann is the better athlete, dangerous across many aspects. We've seen him get chokes in the past. We've seen him get knockouts. If Cutelaba comes in here and fights the way like he kind of has in his last couple of fights, and that gas tank maintains there, I think they can win this fight. Spann, I've never been the biggest, I don't want to say admirer of, but I think that he's got a lot of things there, but mentally I don't think he's all there as a fighter. Coming off that loss to Anthony Smith, where he kind of got hit up a little bit, got knocked down a couple of times, and then got submitted in that first round. I think he's a little bit, I don't want to say a mental midget. I think that his mentality is not great. I think that Cutelaba starts quick and starts to kind of really get some takedowns or hurts him a little bit. I think we've seen in previous fights he can be taken out. Nogueira took him out. Devin Clark took him out. Serkinov took him out. No, what am I talking about? I'm looking at his wins. He can, if he starts off really quick as well, he can get stoppages. He's got the wins over Nogueira. Clark had that fight with Sam Alvey, which was really close. A lot of people gave that to Alvey. I think Spann should have been the decision there, and he got it. But like I say, in his two losses, he got blasted out by Johnny Walker and he got stopped by Anthony Smith. I like Ian Kutila, but I'm interested to see where the line goes. I wonder if Spann's going to maybe be a popular dog this week and maybe some money comes in Cutelaba. If I can, I'd like to kind of maybe get a play in him at minus 150. I think the odds are like minus 175 to minus 190 I've seen. So I'd like that to come down a little bit. I don't think it will, but I would like it to. But Cutelaba for me is the pick in that one there. Main event of the night, we've got Jan Blachowicz against Aleksander Rakic. Big fight for both guys because Jan really needs to reestablish himself if he wants to stay in the title picture. Rakic really wants to put himself further along in the title picture. I'm hoping for a Jan win here. I'm not the biggest Rakic guy, I'll be honest with you. I think that he's a guy that when I see on a fight card, I'm not kind of screaming out to really watch this guy fight, even though in the past I've bet him in a couple of spots. He's came through the Ledet spot. I think he was a plus 140 underdog in that one, and he absolutely wrecked that dude. Like, he destroyed and beat the absolute piss out of him. One of my favorite performances, all-around performances in a fight, where he got takedowns there. He landed some big power shots, got a knockdown in that fight, and he's really established himself in the UFC with wins over Devin Clark, beautiful head kick knockout over Jimmy Manuel, got that step up against Volkan where he could have arguably won that fight. Win over Anthony Smith, which is a big one in that division. But his last two fights haven't been great. He's kind of really sat back, used his long strikes, low kicks, disabled a couple of guys. And that fight with Thiago Santos was just a rough fight. It was a pretty terrible fight, honestly, where he got outstruck, but he won the fight. I thought he did enough to win the fight. I thought his strikes looked a little bit more powerful, and I thought he just did enough there. Blachowicz, I mean, to me, I don't want to say, and like everyone was so happy for Glover Teixeira because it was a great story, and that's the kind of division where stuff like that can happen. I mean, it happened with Blachowicz. Nobody would have said Blachowicz would have held the belt there and beat defended his belt against like Israel Adesanya and such. But he came in there and Teixeira really put it on, and once he got that ground game going, it was kind of good night Irene there and got the second round stoppage, did Glover. But Blachowicz has got some things that you like. I like his striking. He's confident in his power. I just don't know whether he's going to be able to kind of keep up with the kind of movement of Rakic, who I think is going to be fighting long and fighting on the outside. Now, this is in the Apex cage there, the small cage. Blachowicz, to me, if he could use some takedowns, and it's not something that he really does. We've seen it in that Adesanya fight where I think he had to use it in the late parts of there to kind of establish and win rounds and do it there. But before that, you're going back 4 or 5 years, probably 4 years, to the Krylov fight there where he won via submission. That's maybe a path to victory for him if he can get it to the ground. It's the submissions there, because he has had a couple in his career in the UFC. He had that one with Krylov. He had that one against David Clark. Did he have any more, actually? No. But he has got that Polish power where he can knock dudes out. I mean, during that run that he had to the title, he was so confident in the shots that he was throwing, and that when he landed, that he was going to win the fight. So that knocked out Luke Rockhold, knocked out Corey Anderson, knocked out Dominic Reyes. I got him as a plus 200 dog there. Great fight. So I think the play has to be Rakic for me, though. I think that he's just going to win rounds with higher output. If he does stop takedowns, then I think that Rakic will just be, his shots will look more impactful. If he doesn't get hit with the big shots, then I just think he's going to be doing more over a 25-minute period. But again, this is a 25-minute fight where Blachowicz has been in those type of fights. Rakic hasn't yet. So this is a new inkling, a new part of the game to Rakic that we're going to see. Could he knock out Blachowicz? He could. I really want Jan to win. I'm going to be cheering for Jan, but I think as a pick, I think Rakic has to be the pick for me there. So Aleksander Rakic, I think I'm going to go a decision in that one there. And yeah, that will be my pick there. I think I really want to pick Blachowicz, but the play has to be Rakic. Just when I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking it's going to be like that. So I'm going to go into the chat, just say hello to some of you guys. There's only a couple of you in there. So, guys, if you can throw a like in the video, it would be much appreciated. Wayne Duggar, still the man. I had Rose Carla for fight of the night. Ooh, rough. Edward Kelly, I should have betted on Oliveira, a Sparza parlay. I honestly favour both Carla and Charles, respectively, in their fights. I knew that Trevor Whitman would have a difficult task to succeed last night. I wanted to bet Charles straight minus 125, and I just couldn't get it in some of the books that I usually use, so I decided to just stay away from it. So James D, Carla Sparza capped off a $1,400 parlay. Couldn't believe she actually did it. Well, congrats, James. That's awesome, my man. Well done. Daniel Edwards, Torres going to tee off. Like I say, he absolutely could, and the durability of Camacho's kind of went. But like I say, it's not something that I've really looked into all that much, and I'll have a look through the week. The play is Rakic there from Kurt Flint. In my opinion, Rakic will be the light heavyweight champion by next year. I don't, personally, but we'll see. He's one of the guys that's up there. So Jan has neck problems. I think, yeah, you've seen that. You back now? I've been back. I've been off. I had a couple of weeks off not too long ago. I had some work things done, but I've been back since the new year. I'm happy to be back and having a great year. Just to try and get the channel back into some sort of a semblance a little bit and try and get some of these numbers back up. So if you can throw a like on there, and if you've not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. So guys, that's me. All the very, very best. Take care. Enjoy the fights when they come around next week. And what is the main event for the week after? Holly Holm, I think it is. So, not the greatest main event, but we will get to it. All the very best. Take care and enjoy the fights when they come around. Peace.